This year at the VEITHsymposium we covered much on the subject of new development on router AAA and some of the controversies.
Well, I think the controversies were the most interesting part, and as you know, there's always been disagreement about whether EVAR is better for ruptured AAAs than open repair, and we addressed this subject again with a lot of speakers, all of us really, and it appeared that there's been a shift, because every time a vote was taken in the past, there was pretty much equipoise. Some believed that EVAR was better and some believed that EVAR was not better. But this year, when we took the vote, virtually everybody in the audience thought that EVAR was better than open repair. Yeah. And be interesting, Martin, you were there and listening. Did you think there was a shift in the sentiment?
Yeah, definitely. But I was going to ask you, Frank, do you think all of this is a medical issue, or is it to a certain extent that people now actually have the opportunity to start using the endovascular technology? They do have the rooms, they do have the equipment, etc.
Well, that's a big one, but I mean, for example, in England, the reason the improved trial was done was because they couldn't get approval from the government. Right. And what was so interesting is that the 3 randomized trials, as we all discussed, the 3 randomized trials all showed no benefit for EVAR, and yet when you analyze the 3 trials very carefully, they're all misleading. They're all defective, even though they're level 1 evidence, randomized trials. They all reached a conclusion which was probably incorrect.
Many biases.
Many biases. Thomas, you agree?
I agree, and if we look on all the trials and the registries, we can actually say that in no one EVAR is inferior to open repair.
Right.
And the trials, they just choose the good candidates, and I can accept that for good candidates, stable patients with good health, open repair will have the same outcome as endo.
Right. Yeah. That's a very important point. The benefit from EVAR comes in the high-risk, bad patient who's in shock, or in whom an open repair is not possible, and those are the patients that were excluded from the trials.
Didn't IMPROVE even include just symptomatic non-ruptured cases?
Yeah, but they did. They also included patients that didn't have aneurysms, that proved not to have aneurysms. But there were small numbers and it didn't really make a big difference.
I think the crossover rate was very high, more than 40%. And per definition, if you have that high crossover rate, you will end up with no significance in the 2 arms.
Well, the point being that intention to treat, which is the purest way of doing a randomized trial, it's good, but only if the majority or the vast majority of patients get the intended treatment. And in IMPROVE, more than 50% that were randomized to get an EVAR actually didn't get an EVAR because they didn't do the CAT scan until after the randomization, and then they realized they couldn't do an EVAR.
Yeah, if you want to have a very streamlined organization and don't think about shall we do it open repair or endo, it's much better when the patient comes to the hospital. You know, we can treat. We have the tools today to treat every patient with endo. Let's do that. And I think the doctors now have. It's a paradigm shift for elective surgery, and now they feel comfort with doing it also in ruptured aneurysm. And I agree with you, Martin. I think also the new facilities with hybrid is part of that shift in how doctors look at this. And I agree with you. I was astonished by seeing no hands for the open repair group. We have followed this for many years and we have been the underdogs.
Of course, but you have to realize all of us are enthusiasts, but I think Mario presented some really valuable long-term data from your group in Zurich showing the benefit of EVAR. Do you want to just summarize that?
Yeah, I think for me, if I would start now an endovascular program, I would like to have the information that the treatment lasts some advantage to the patient for long term. And now what we can see from the series published in between Zurich and Örebro is that we have an advantage that is maintained over 10 years, and the IMPROVE trial also in the midterm results, they show now that there is an advantage that is clearly in favor of EVAR. So I think these long-term results are really giving a weight to the treatment choice.
There's no doubt about that, but the one-year results from IMPROVE, the mortality results, they don't show an advantage. They come out and say that EVAR is better because they sort of back into it saying it costs less time in the hospital, less time in the ICU. But their mortality figures are still misleading because they don't show the benefit, and that's why the randomized trials, I think, are somewhat flawed. Martin, what do you think?
I still think, that very many doctors have known about this for some time. And I think that they have been limited by the logistics. It's been costly and difficult for them to change the organization at their hospitals. I've been invited to hospitals to tell them, that endovascular is better, than they had made fun of me, until they got a hybrid room themselves. And then I'm invited there to the same hospital, and now they suddenly tell me, we are doing more than you.
Yep.
Well, I think this meeting this year was a shift, as you started by saying. We saw all these hands voting for the endo, and I think it's important that this message comes out to the next generation, to the young surgeons under training, and they should come to a meeting like this next year and see this, so that they aren't stuck with the old kind of treatment.
Well said.